It just seemed to tip it one beat a little too far.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they're drinking a bottle of wine here. Now,
Long
Paul,
wine.
do you want to?
This is a running friend joke here in that my uncle Anthony, my Anthony Paternostro, has him and a couple other guys are. It's a hobby of theirs to make wine, and they've been making wine for years. It's my grandfather used to make it. And so a lot of this story, there's a lot of truth in the characters, not the story that he's telling, but the characters that he's referencing. And they have a company, or not company, kind of a group called It's a Time Wine. And they make homemade Chardonnay, and they make Shiraz and Merlot, and they make quite a few. They've won quite a few medals over the years in New England. Making a wine.
Now, what you don't know, I mean, because did you know we surprised with that bottle of wine? 'Cause that's actually a bottle of wine from
Right. I didn't know.
Anthony sent it to us.
Exactly.
So you were there on set in the moment, and then you open the box, and there's
Right, and there was the actual wine, which was kind of cool.
It does taste a little like vinegar with just perhaps a whisper of a
there's Zach did a music cue for this scene. He did his own 80s version of a cue from earlier in the film, and I love that, because you come into this scene and they're talking about this point in their lives, and suddenly there's an 80s we were trying to get the rights for a real 80s song, but we couldn't. It was too expensive, so Zach just 80s eyes one of his other cues, which I think works really, really nicely.
But I wouldn't appreciate it.
This was also the hardest scene to cut. I'm sure if Tim was here, he would say he spent a lot of time trying to figure this out.
It was also the reason we bumped, too, if I'm not mistaken. Doing this travel shot around the circle was a difficult setup, lighting-wise, and
Yeah.
Well, it was particularly tricky because we're going around you guys in a circle on the dolly, so that means we had to clear the gym. So the whole crew had to clear. No script supervisor, none of the PAs, nobody. So it was just Josh, the cameraman, I think his first AC, and me trying to sort of circle around you guys, and that made it a little hard, because then we'd have to sort of, in particular on continuity, to try and keep track of where people's hands were and who's handing what to whom, and
that was
what's
difficult.
going on.
There's a lot of mental thought had to go into this simple scene, and it's more people sitting around talking. And it's like, how do you make that creative? How do you make that new? How do you keep the audience, instead of seeing the same type of shots over and over again? John Carpenter talked about it in one of his films, and it's not an easy thing to do. It's more difficult than an action film, because you're always moving forward in those type of stories.
Well, I like this scene because it's what I call the campfire scene. It's like,
I got comments from a couple people that said, I mean, obviously, again, like what I was saying before about people in their mid-30s and what have you, they just mentioned Breakfast Club right there, and that there's a certain, with the 80s cue and the circular, it's almost like you're going back to the Breakfast Club in some ways, and some of these things are still not resolved from their high school years.
And I think wasn't this a tough scene to write too, Tom? So we were trying to really thread a bunch of things together into one.
Well, I was going to say, it was one of my favorite, that I actually came up with a lot of the stuff. I think most of the stuff in the box, and, not that I'm taking credit, but what I thought was phenomenal was when I was on set for another scene, I happened to mention, I was bummed that I wasn't at the scene for the gym. I would have loved to see the box. And the name of the props person came out and showed me the memory box.
Oh, you mean Brandy? Brandy,
Brandy brought me the memory box, and it was just amazed at something because I've not had much experience with film. My experience comes mostly from prose, and that's all in your head. But to see something that I probably created 85% of, to be handed the memory box that I created with the album and the stuff in there, I mean, that was just an amazing moment. And then to see it on film.
And this is the moment why we did the roundy round. We did the roundy round so that we could slam on the brakes here and stop. Because when Alden hits Kirby with that moment of just crossing the line, saying something too far.
Great shot right there.
We wanted to just stop. And we thought if
Good
we
job.
were in motion the whole time up until then, and then fluid and
such a good
relaxed and natural, and then stop, it would help heighten the impact.
I love this moment. It's
But-
so well done.
Why don't you figure your own screwed up life before you start?
But yeah, I think writing wise, we did want we sort of wanted one thing in the box to kind of represent each of them.
What? Knock it off. You knock it off.
That magazine that they were just looking at, do they still make that? Because I heard they stopped. Is that true? Or the magazine they were just reading?
More things change.
Everybody knows what we're talking about. The magazine goes, oh, I didn't know they were on that cover. I didn't know they were a gay icon at the time. Do they still make that magazine?
It's bigger now.
I
It's
thought
bigger?
they did. Yes, I think they
It's more of
do.
a leaflet.
So they still
This-
This is
Yeah.
fantastic. You
I
two
like this.
here.
I also like the way we shot it. We did a couple. We were going to do some coverage, and then you guys. It's kind of like that couch scene when your two characters first come together. We just were like, you guys have such a nice natural interplay. Let's just let it be and have a slow push in.
I think you guys did this in record time too. Did you? I think you only did like 2 takes of it.
I had no choice.
Yeah, we did.
Time to go.
You guys better rehearse this because we're only going twice.
And
Now, one question about the roundy round scene, which just happened.
Is that the
I heard
Campfire scene.
The campfire scene. I did hear a rumor that there was some vomiting afterwards because you guys were smoking and drinking all day.
We had gotten. I don't want to point fingers, Tom, but because we had now been smoking again, and that joint was. Someone had laced the marijuana with heroin. No, it was just
black tar heroin.
It was smoking tobacco, and because we were all a bunch of wimps who now only smoke through filter, it kind of made some hacking, and yeah, it wasn't that fun. It was a lot of hacking.
And that and
The Mung
grape
line.
juice. Grape juice is that?
Yeah,
what
it was grape juice.
Gallons
That
of
was apple cider.
I was always amazed that you guys could
Very
play that
awkward
scene
moment.
without laughing. The peanuts
we don't
peanuts
believe in
references. I would not have been able to keep a straight face.
and this line always
I was
makes,
gonna
this line always
This
makes
is-
me laugh.
Just his delivery. I also like the costuming. Jeffrey Schoenberg did a nice, subtle,
yeah, he did.
subtle job on the costumes because we were talking about, just the
Jeffrey
way
was just
Jeffrey was
amazing on this
know,
film.
it's-
I
he
can't believe it
gets-
took us this long to
it's
mention.
subtle,
it.
but
Well, he
to-
gets
but-
his big moment shortly.
That's right.
But to track these costumes to the level of dirtiness, I mean, look how ratty they look now. But when you shoot it out of sequence, to keep track of all that, and then also to have, Kirby's now sort of in light clothes. Alden's in primarily dark clothes, and I like that Patrick's in this conflict. He's light and he's dark, and it's kind of a mixture.
Maybe we should get back to the car.
Also, Zach's music here is
I
just great.
love how 80s Alden looks in this scene. Look at that hair. He just,
Again with the hair.
hey,
Oh, come on, this is the.
I think we should
We'll
just
do
have a
separate
hair
commentary
commentary.
track just about the hair.
See, this is why we're writers. Because
Oh, is that what this is? Well, it's certainly not
This
Monopoly.
part was hard to cut too.
it's such a James joke too. It's not Monopoly.
There was more here, but it just seemed that this worked better without just the way that it is now. I like the balls just going back and forth. This was fun to do. The folks at the school basically let us have access to all their sporting goods equipment, so we used it,
all of it.
and this was fun. To just
That's
lay
real.
this all out.
Real coughing.
Yeah.
Keep in mind.
It's a lung coming up.
You think those characters had some aggression they had to get out?
Yeah,
or,
Just a bit.
Those are stacked nicely, though. I don't know if those would have been.
Go this for another one.
Say lights up the scene.
See, that's all, the other thing that happens when you hang out with your friends and make a film. You get to do stupid things like that where you think it's funny and everybody thinks it's funny in the moment. You wonder, does anybody go,
Is
why
it-
does he
is
have a
it-
bit on?
I believe when I
Funny
sit up,
to
I'm
us.
holding a rubber chicken. Like,
Yeah.
what could possibly have
You
happened
can't
in
really
my
see
last
it,
moments?
but you can see
And
Jim
his-
Stoddard.
yep.
Jim Stoddard, one of our producers. Excellent. Yeah, why are you? Where did you get this?
I have no idea.
Why does John have goggles on? What were you guys? That's the fun part of this moment. Is like,
How
what
did
did
we
these
fall
guys do between the one we just saw and here?